Now, you had this period of time where you were working on the TV show Punk'd.
Yes.
And I'm fascinated by
this.
this.
That was my first on-camera job, and that was just still my favorite job I've ever had.
And why was it your favorite job?
Because I love pranks. I've always loved pranks. That's my version of, Mindy lies. I actually do the work, not judging.
Right. She can just say, that person
since
owns
high school,
Flemish armor, but he doesn't.
I love pranks. And here was a job where a professional team set up the prank for you. Mm-hmm. And you just knock the pins down. It was unbelievable. And Ashton Kutcher, this was I was 23, 24. I had only been in the writer's room. I'd started doing stand-up a couple years ago. I suddenly got some heat as a stand-up. I killed my audition, and I'm here with Ashton Kutcher, who loomed so large, especially at that moment. Now he's sort of an icon that has graduated. He's been around forever, but he was just bursting.
Yeah.
Like cover of People magazine every week. So cool. And I was like this comedy writer still wearing the kind of pleated khakis that you wear when you grow up in Boston. And he was like in my earpiece.
I'm wearing those right now, you asshole.
What to say to these pop stars that would freak them out. I mean, it was, as someone who loved pranks, it was a dream come true.
Now, your job as a performer was to play the reality of the prank.
Yeah. And it was great acting training because you have to be convincing and funny, and you get one take.
Yeah, and you cannot indicate
fired.
the joke, which is, as everyone knows who's worked in comedy, actually they don't know it, but they should know it, don't indicate the joke. It ruins it when you're indicating
and
that
since
something
I've
funny's
directed
happened.
comedy, a lot of people show up, great actors, great dramatic actors show up ready to do comedy. And they don't realize that by that philosophy that we both subscribe to, no, play the drama. Get the comedy deep down, but you play that reality. As soon as you play the comedy, it's not funny.
Well, I think it's what Steve Carell did so brilliantly was he's a brilliant actor.
Yes.
And he played every moment with complete honesty.
Yes.
As Michael Scott.
You could write him the most insane thing for a human being, that no human being grills his foot on a George Foreman grill because he wants to wake up to the smell of bacon and then tells his office to treat him as a handicapped person.
Right.
But when he performs that, you buy it.
Right.
You see how a human being could do that.
And he's not rubbing his hands before the scene to say, how do I make this funny?
I think he is deep down, I think he has a writer brain that's coming up with the funny things to say, but then his actor heart is playing the drama of this human being and this terrible situation in that character's mind, When you were doing these pranks on Punk'd, was there ever a moment where, because you can't break, you're not supposed to break in sketches, but people do. But if you're part of a prank and you're pretending to be someone who, is a barista or someone who's working the counter at a restaurant. Do you know what I mean? And you've got to play that reality and you can't start giggling or the entire thing is ruined. Yeah. Was that ever a problem? Yeah, I've almost never. I think I'm a little too serious when I do comedy. I think that if you watch The Office bloopers, I'm almost never breaking. And I wish I had brought myself to the level of being about to break a lot, because I do think a lot of great comedy comes at that teetering edge. But I didn't generally have a problem with that, but I did watch something where I saw my face just bite my cheek to not break. And there was one outrageous, my mom hated Punk'd. But there was one outrageous one where Rachel Lee Cook was the actor. And she... so they always find like their vulnerability or their obsession. So she and Jonathan Tucker, who's a friend of mine now, was the accomplice. So he brought her to a restaurant and she volunteered with the elderly. And we got a stuntman to be the waiter, like a forgetful waiter that kept messing up her order. And I was an asshole manager of the restaurant that was abusive to this elderly waiter and screamed at him for messing up the order, and then eventually started throwing him against the wall because he's a stunt guy. And it's so violent. And watching that, I laugh now because I can't believe that we would do such a thing.
First of all, you just described my favorite day ever. It would be a joy for me
to beat the elderly.
Yes.
Well, to beat up people. It's so funny because...
But to do these things and have to convince someone it's real.
Yes, it's real.
What you were saying, the acting training is amazing because you have to be funny. enough to, you're improvising because you're making up the stuff. You have to be completely convincing so the other person in the scene thinks this is the worst day of their life. And it's a high wire act because you have one take.
I'm not a natural prankster. I don't think that's something that I was built for. I worry a lot that someone will get hurt or upset.
Apparently was not my problem.
I just do not have that. But the couple of times in my career that the writers have come up with something where I get to kind of inhabit that niche, I've been so happy. Mm-hmm. And my writers came up with something once that was a great idea, which is, let's get a really good prosthetic person to make me up to be someone who doesn't look anything like me, and then I will run a focus group.
That's great.
To show people Conan O'Brien, people who wouldn't really know me.
How did you disguise yourself?
We got a really good prosthetic person who added a lot of weight and age to me, and I did not look like me. I don't know if you remember this.
I do remember it. I loved it.
And I was dealing with a lot of older people, and I was showing them. We intentionally picked stuff where I'm jumping around or doing the string dance and the monologue. We cut together this thing that would just look very alienating, and I was showing them this stuff, and they really didn't like it, and they were saying, "Well, we don't like this person." And then I started to egg them on by saying, well, here he is. I don't like to tell tales out of school, but...
why would a focus group leader
I did.
gossip like that?
I did, but I started to tell them.
Funny,
I started to gossip with them a little bit about how I heard Conan O'Brien's not a good guy. And they were like, well, what do you mean? And I said, well, I'm not here to say things, and you didn't hear it from me, and this is just between you, me, and the fence post. I kept making up these crazy, stupid things. This is between you, me, and the fence post, but I'll tell you that I had dated Cher, and then I dumped her. Mm-hmm. And they were like, he dumped Cher? And they were livid. And I'm like, well, again, you didn't hear it but from me. I'm as quiet as an aardvark and an onion, but I'll tell you this much. And I was just trying, but I was so happy, and I would go on long tangents, and then I would say things that I heard about Conan O'Brien that were really kind of not great, other shitty things. And I had so much fun, and I understood the joy of getting to do that. Getting to be...
You had a whole crew helping you. But that's really, you carried that.
Well, it was so much fun. It was so much fun. But I understand, because I grew up with brothers, I've always been someone who likes to roughhouse, to use a term probably no one uses anymore, because it's just a cute way of saying physical abuse. But I loved roughhousing, still love roughhousing. And so the idea of,
No,
I will wrestle you before this is over, and you'll be very uncomfortable.
Rainn Wilson always wanted to wrestle with me. During The Office.
I understand that.
No. I look easy to beat. I think someone who hasn't wrestled in a while is like, why don't I start with you and then move on to Krasinski's bodyguard?
Whenever I was in a sketch with people, whenever I was in a sketch that called for me to punch someone and throw them through a wall, or for me to get punched and get thrown through a wall, to this day, even at my age, I would sign up for in a second. I absolutely love it. It makes me so happy when show business involves being a kid. Basically, I think that's what it is.
And when someone builds a fake wall, it's so great when a crew goes to such serious effort for you to do something so ridiculous.